don't really believe you're going to see that when it comes to the ability of Baltimore to lose. I don't see Baltimore losing. I can't see Lamar Jackson losing at home. I just don't see it because Lamar Jackson's unbelievable. And Pittsburgh's been playing so poorly. So Pittsburgh's been playing poorly. They're losing all these games. As soon as they put up, Hard Knocks, AFC North, I couldn't wait to watch it. I couldn't wait to watch it because I wanted to see what they would look like, because you get a chance to see Mike Tomlin behind the scenes. You never get a chance to see Mike Tomlin behind the scenes. And he walks into every meeting room saying, gentlemen, we are not going to be defined by the way we lost that game or won that game. You're like, oh my God, we're getting Tomlin in the meeting room. And then we see a little bit of Cleveland with Stefanski, but nothing much there. Then John Harbaugh, he shows up in the meeting room for Baltimore, and he's got these T-shirts on with all these messages, and he's a rah-rah guy. Who's got it better than us? Nobody. Like his brother. And you're like, man, Baltimore's good. But doesn't Pittsburgh know Baltimore inside out and vice versa? Yeah. So on 3rd and 6, when Lamar Jackson breaks the huddle, Mike Tomlin and his staff have looked at every 3rd and 6 cut-up that Lamar Jackson has ever run. Every one. They know every play. They've looked at it 1,000 times. That's got to give Pittsburgh an advantage to cover the spread here. It's got to, I would think. So when you look at that, you got to say, how are they giving them 9.5 points in this game as I'm looking at the moving line? What are we missing here? And what we're missing is the fact that Baltimore's so much better lately playing their games than Pittsburgh that's finding a way to lose. Russ is not peaking at the right time, and people are picking the right team in Baltimore, obviously the right team, but the number, if you're gambling, it makes it confusing. Like people are saying, man, JT's saying every time they play, it's a 3-point game. Why is it 10 or 9? And I see it now being played down to 9. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of money on Pittsburgh to cover. And I think you're nuts to Pittsburgh to win on the money line, but they can do that. Then the Broncos and the Bills. The Bills are an 8.5-point favorite. I think the Broncos can cover, but you got a lot of people. I even saw John Gruden, my friend, on Barstool talking about how scary Denver can be. And now people are thinking, wait a second. Sean Payton's got house money. He doesn't have to win. The team stunk for the last couple of years. All they got to do is show up in Buffalo and keep it close, and everyone's going to clap that Denver kept it close. Well, I don't think the Broncos have a chance to compete in that game. I would take Buffalo big to cover the spread, but, man, a lot of people are keeping an eye on that. The Eagles have a big problem on their hand. Jalen Hurts hasn't played football in 3 weeks. You want him to just do what? Throw it around like Montana and Elway? I mean, look, if you get down to the goal line, I think Jalen Hurts can run it in from 1 yard out, but how's Jalen Hurts going to get the ball down there? And if you think it's Saquon Barkley, well, everybody in the building knows Saquon Barkley is going to get all those handoffs, and the Packers are really good. They're catching 5. They got Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs. Watson injury hurts a lot, but Green Bay checks a lot of boxes. They're okay playing anywhere. They're good outside in the cold. They're fast indoors. They beat Dak and the Cowboys last year. It's a hell of a football team in the Packers, but they have to play on the road in a very hostile environment. I like the Eagles in the game, but I don't like them to cover. The Eagles are another team. If they lose the game, they're going to fire their coach. If they lose the game, the fans are going to boo Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts might be one of the coolest, calmest, greatest role models we've ever seen. I mean, he's that good of a guy. Learn about him if you don't know. If he doesn't play well, Philly, those dirty, stinking, green, drunk bird fans are going to run him out of town. Quick story. I once interviewed Donovan McNabb. I said, Donovan, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you leave Philadelphia in your prime? You kept signing with Philadelphia. He told me, JT, we had a good team. We're playing in all these deep playoff games. They ran Donovan McNabb out of town. They ran Andy Reid out of town because they couldn't win the big one. They're going to do that to Jalen Hurts if he loses this game. And then the Buccaneers, I'm just a big Baker guy. I really believe that Baker Mayfield now has the moxie. You see the stats of Baker Mayfield? This guy's a lunatic. I cannot believe that Baker Mayfield isn't the quarterback of the Raiders. We could have got him for $30 million a year. That might be one of the best deals I've seen, other than Sam Darnold for $10 million a year. Baker Mayfield has 4,500 yards and 41 touchdowns. Now, he's been sacked 40 times. But Baker Mayfield is one hell of a player, and y'all could have got him for free. You made fun of him because he did commercials with his wife. You made fun of him because he got drunk one night in Norman, Oklahoma. The guy's married, family, role model, never gets in trouble, great player. Carolina had him. The Rams had him for a cup of coffee. Baker Mayfield was right there for you to get. And the only team smart enough to get him was Tampa Bay. And then, as I've said, if you're joining us late, the amount of pressure on Kevin O'Connell and Sam Darnold is real. The good news for Sam Darnold is he's going to get paid. Is he going to get paid $50 million a year? Yes. Sam Darnold went from being a $10 million guy, backup quarterback, kind of a flop, right? A bust, if you look at his draft status, to now, because he's played well and he's been in the system with the Niners and now with the Vikings, he's going to get $50 million. Would I give Sam Darnold $50 million? I'd give it to him tomorrow. Make him the quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders. Make him the quarterback. Look, you wouldn't want to bring him back to the Jets. That feels clunky. But if you need a quarterback, Sam Darnold's pretty good. And Minnesota will probably re-sign him to big money. And I just think that the pressure on Minnesota from the body language that I watched, when I looked at the body language of Minnesota when they got beaten Detroit, they could not have gotten to the showers and the bus quicker to get out of there. They looked like a bunch of JV players that just got smashed by the varsity. And I was like, man, start watching the game with my son. I'm like, look at Justin Jefferson. Look at Sam Darnold. Look at Kevin O'Connell. They look like they saw a ghost in a horror movie. And they're supposed to wake up and go out to Glendale and win. Minnesota's very good. And then we have Kansas City as the number 1 seed. Nothing in my life in sports, not my personal life, wife, family, career, all that, in sports is more important to me than Kansas City getting their ass kicked. Okay, let me say this again, because the only people that I'm offending are Kansas City fans, and the majority of the people listening are not Chief fans. I want them down. I want them beat at all cost. I don't want them humiliated and embarrassed because they embarrassed themselves by not competing against Denver. The Cincinnati Bengals did enough to get into the playoffs if they got help from Kansas City. Andy Reid decided to play his backups, and their backups couldn't even play. They played awful, and they rolled over and they weren't competitive. I don't believe in karma, but if you believe in karma, the way that the Chiefs let Denver have a bye week to go to the playoffs was sickening to me. I married a Swiftie. My wife likes Taylor Swift. Your daughters like Taylor Swift. And I don't like that factor in. I don't like the fact that they've added millions of fans from Germany to Budapest to South America because of a pop star. I don't like that at all. I don't like the fact that they're making Hallmark love stories about the Kansas City Chiefs and putting Travis Kelce in movies now. I don't like that at all. I don't like Kansas City because they're changing the record book out here in the AFC West where the Raiders are, Denver are. You know, Raiders have 3 Super Bowl wins, Denver and John Elway, and all of a sudden the Chiefs are trying to wipe out the record books and build their own. If the Kansas City Chiefs win the Super Bowl, they become the greatest NFL team of all time. No debate. They are better than the Lombardi Packers. They are better than the Steelers Steel Curtain. They are better than the 72 Dolphins with Shula. And they're better than the Patriot Dynasty because no one's ever done a three-peat. And man, Kansas City's been going through Buffalo and Baltimore pretty damn good. So if we can all huddle up here and get a cheer on beating Kansas City, I would appreciate that. And on top of it, Kansas City hasn't played well this year. Haven't played well this year. My calculations, along with others, believe that Kansas City should have had a minimum of 5 losses this year. 5. The ball hits off the goalpost. Guy misses staying in bounds in Baltimore by a toenail. You start going down the list, you're like, how did Kansas City, Raiders are in scoring position to win the game, snap, the quarterback isn't looking, fumble. I mean, a lot of bizarre stuff has gone on. Can Kansas City, and they're not a lucky team, Kansas City's the best, but can they continue to get breaks and continue to win the way that they're winning? So if you told me, and when I'm in New Orleans on Radio Row for the Super Bowl, that I wouldn't have to see a Kansas City Chief fan up and down Bourbon Street, man, that would make my day. If we can get Detroit and Buffalo in the Super Bowl, it'll be the greatest underdog, Rocky Balboa, 2 franchises that could never win Super Bowl in our lifetime. And in sports, that's what's amazing about sports. Every once in a while, something happens. And you go, how'd that happen? How did that team come from nowhere and win? How did Jim Valvano, you watch the documentary on Jim Valvano in North Carolina State, how'd they even make it through the ACC tournament to get to the NCAA tournament and win it? There's things that you see in your life that you don't expect to see. The Marlins winning a World Series, whatever it is. Well, if we get Buffalo and we get Detroit at the Super Bowl, they will not be able to stock all the beer and liquor on Bourbon Street. Every Bills fan that you've ever met will drive. You can fly, but they'll drive. And then every Detroit fan that you've ever known, and there's a lot of them, will drive from Detroit straight down to New Orleans. I was at the Super Bowl in Jacksonville when Philadelphia went, and there were no hotel rooms. There were no hotel rooms. Jacksonville didn't have hotel rooms. They brought in a cruise ship for people to stay in a cruise ship because they had no rooms. And I saw Philadelphia fans sleeping in the park with sleeping bags because they just drove. They had to see their Eagles play. So that's what I want to see. I want to see Kansas City get beat at some point. The only unfortunate thing is the way the bracket's set up. Buffalo will have to play Baltimore. And that's a war. I mean, that's a barroom brawl. Someone's going to come out of that winning, but beaten and battered. And then they're going to have to go to Arrowhead and beat Mahomes. That's hard. I don't think the Chargers, if they win, can go beat Mahomes. If Denver wins, right, Denver's the lowest seed. If Denver beats Buffalo, they go to Kansas City. But I want to see Kansas City get beat. And my preseason Super Bowl pick was Detroit over Cincinnati. So I got Detroit to win, and I don't have to change my mind on that. So I want to give a little bit of a rant there. Remind everybody I'm on YouTube channel, JT the Brick YT, where you can watch, make some new internet friends, and see what I got going there. When we come back, more on the games and which NFL player is under the most pressure. I have it Lamar Jackson. Who do you have as the next guy? Well, the next two, because pressure matters. If you want to be elite and you want to be a legend and you want to have a legacy, you have to play great in the biggest games. Lamar Jackson hasn't been able to do that. He should, because he's probably the best player on the planet in football, even better than Mahomes, with his stats and ability. But Mahomes wins the big games and Lamar doesn't. Does it turn for Lamar? Jerry Coleman will join us in Baltimore, and also Brandon Cristal joining us. He's a Broncos insider. When we continue, Saturday morning, now Saturday afternoon on the East, JT, this is Mad Dog. Thank you. I'll be right there. All right, how about that bonus brick out of nowhere Saturday show? I'm on Mad Dog, Sirius XM 82. Wanted to fire up the machine, give you a little Saturday stuff, and get it done. But I have to bail out because Sirius XM is a streaming company where you have to pay to watch in. So we gave you a little look, little 15-minute look, and I'm out of here. Have a great rest of your day.